Many years ago now, I first saw the play Quilters in Denver. The play tells the story of an old woman who decides to make one last quilt as a gift for her daughters. Each block in the quilt tells the story of a period in her life. As I sat in the audience in a feverish haze, coming down with the flu, I watched the woman's life come together before me. At the end of the play, the individual quilt blocks, which we had seen one at a time, were assembled as a whole, as a quilt, on stage. The dramatic intensity of the moment was staggering. In my own life, the effects of quilting have been less dramatic, but still significant over time, in calming me down, helping me connect with other people and with the divine, and helping me connect the pieces of my life. I started quilting in 1977, influenced by a friend, Susan Kolodziejski Murphy, who had taught art at Rend Lake College in Southern Illinois, where I grew up, and who organized a quilt show and quilting demonstrations there. I remember going to a piecing demonstration where a quilter showed us how to put the little geometric pieces of cotton fabric together in a block, and thinking at the time, this is beautiful, but I'd never have the patience to do it. Little did I realize the effect quilting would have on my life. I started piecing and quilting pillow tops, then made my first baby quilt. I haven't stopped since. In 1983, I moved to Denver to attend Iliff Seminary, where I wanted to integrate my interests in the visual arts and religion. I wrote a master's thesis on artistic activity as spiritual discipline and led a women's retreat on the theme Quilting as a Means of Grace. At the retreat, 13 women made a total of 15 quilt blocks, which were assembled to make a group quilt. Later, a number of us quilted it. In 1987, about a year after I had graduated from Iliff, I started attending worship at Mountain View Friends Meeting in South Denver. One year, for a meeting-sponsored craft fair, I agreed to contribute a quilt I had been working on if I could get some women from the meeting to help me quilt it. Some women did, and then we kept going. Over a period of years, we made a series of group quilts and were drawn closer to each other in the process. In the 1990s, while I was studying at UCD to become an ESL teacher, I started a trip around the world quilt in the colors of the hollyhocks that bloomed in my garden. In 2002, when I had the good fortune to travel in Japan, I bought traditional indigo-dyed fabrics and made a blue and white quilt. In 2012, on a trip to France and Spain, I looked for quilting fabrics. And last summer, when I made a pilgrimage with my sister to see the old country, Slovakia, from which my father's father emigrated to the U.S., I collected samples of traditional indigo-dyed fabrics there. I hope to include them in the third in a series of autobiographical quilts. Some years ago, I learned, to my surprise, that my father's mother, Grandma Budzak, had been a quilter. My Aunt Helen, Dad's sister, came for my sister's medical school graduation. I didn't have pictures of kids to share, so I brought along pictures of my quilts. After the graduation, Aunt Helen sent me Grandma Budzak's water lily quilt top, which Grandma had appliqued but never quilted. It took me years to get up the nerve to quilt it, but I finally did. So quilting has connected me to my grandmother, to friends, and to the divine, and has helped me connect the parts of myself helped me keep body and soul together at times when they have threatened to come apart.